I'll open a meeting for Sheriff and Dispatch Subcommittee at 9:10 on Monday, March 9th, 2015. We're going to go over, hopefully the last time, for the budget for the Sheriff and Dispatch. If my voice starts cracking, somebody pick up the slack because I've got a terrible cold. I have the changes that we talked about last time, the Sheriff just gave me. I also gave you a copy of contract changes, right? Not the actual contract, but the changes to the contract. Has that been ratified?
It has been.
Everything's also
By the commission and by the membership.
I know the Sheriff has an opening, because I read it in the paper, and hopefully we'll fill it. You think you'll fill it soon?
Yes.
How soon?
A month.
A month. So you're hoping that you fill it with a certified. Are we saving any money? Being vacant for a little bit?
Yes, obviously there's a salary not being paid.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does that mean you have an overtime or anything?
It's overtime that we probably would not have been scheduling for this. The only shifts were really covering weekends that the subject would have been working on nights. Otherwise, there'd only be one person on during those times. The ones we're less likely to cover are the day shifts during the week, Monday to Friday. But there have been a number of shifts that have been covered with overtime on part-time.
So this is just your revenue change?
That's just a revenue change. The budget you were handed out at the last delegation meeting, that included the numbers from the contract.
Right, I really told you this. So that was on 219.
Yes.
That's that right? Does anyone feel that there's anything, just on the sheriff's side of the budget, that needs to be changed from what we have on 219 in anything that you can see that you want to ask? Yes.
Sheriff, just a quick recap on the Baylor issue. Are we, are you still?
I'm gonna leave it where it is, and I know the committee was okay with extending that extra $5. And with reworking the positions over there as far as maybe losing a day here or there coverage-wise, in the money that's being reimbursed, I feel as though that number there, 116, will cover that cost. To give them $10 basically from the town. The state situation, if that does happen, it won't happen until next July 1st, not this July 1st.
Anyone else?
As far as the cruiser lease, it will be the line 72, 41, 40, 72. The quotes I have are for 2015s. That line was shut down in February. So anything cruiser-wise would be 2016s.
So you think there'll be more?
If it does go up, I don't think it's going to be anything much higher, but it may be an increase. Whether that moves that line by $1,000 or something else, that I'm not sure. And those are for leased costs. So the 3 cruisers, kind of guesstimate, because you can't actually get the numbers until you finance them.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing last year and was short of $135, something like that.
So it's like 20-something a cruiser.
Yeah. The quote was $25,105.
Is that fully equipped, or are you
No,
taking the equipment out
that's-
of one and moving it?
A lot of the equipment is moved, but some of it is new, radios. These will have new light bars, but that money is in the budget already.
Yeah, these aren't SUVs, these are just
These
regular.
are just the four interceptors, as far as we've had good luck with them, good use, we have no problems in the snow. It was,
We're not leasing, we're buying them.
in the end, they bought.
It's just a nominal fee.
Yes, it's in the dollar.
Yeah.
3 years,
Um,
4 years.
4 payments, one is made right off, and then there's 3 after.
So really, by the time the 4 years turns around, most guys are going to go down.
We've been turning around in 4 years. K-9 one may be a 5-year deal. But the cars have been turning over, keeping one as a spare over the years, but that puts us around 120 miles, 120,000 miles. But none of these interceptors have come to the 4 years yet. So I guess when that time comes up, we'll look at what shape they're in and
Is there a reason why you use Ford? I mean,
they've held up great. I know state uses a lot of Dodges, Husky uses a lot of Chevys. Chevys didn't have the all-wheel drive. The Dodges just came out with the all-wheel drive, but only the 8-cylinder.
so you were just
It's 6 cylinders and all-wheel drives. So I think economically, they're the best one out there.
Not for gas mileage, you get on the.
We're getting almost 22 miles an hour.
Well, no, that's not bad. All right.
May I?
Yes.
So it was my understanding, I think from a previous meeting, that the expense of the lease would be less if we paid it upfront instead of doing it in payments.
Yes, if I correctly calculated, it's about $5,000 on the last lease that it cost us for the 3 cars.
So if we thought that was a good idea, how would we go about doing that? Go through the commissioners? Are they the ones that decide how and when to pay? Or I guess we would need to put more in this year's budget.
You would if you were gonna do that, right?
If you were to buy them outright, yeah, you have to.
And what, 5,000 to it?
No, you'd have to. If you're buying all the cars outright, it costs you 75 plus for 3 cars, about 76,000. And right now, you're only talking $7,000 payment is what's in there. Added to it. Basically, you're paying almost 1 car a year in the lease.
So if we're,
Make 4 payments annually.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean, that's $77,000. That's not just these 3 cars, that's whatever else is
What you
currently
have.
in leases, right?
that's what
Which
my
is
head was.
obviously last year's 3 cars,
So it's an ongoing.
and then 2
Ongoing,
before that.
yeah.
I guess this falls, in my opinion, falls under the category of another thing that could be worked better through a capital improvement plan, but probably we don't need to address next week.
Yeah, this week, yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
That is definitely one thing that should be capital fund if we do go that way.
Absolutely. And your insurance, you're okay with that? You have the answer from Kathy?
That's
It
this
is what it
year's
is,
figure,
right?
yeah.
It is what it is, I guess that's your liability, so.
Personally, I think the liability insurance should just be in the county budget on the commissioners of one bill. We all know it has to happen, so why try and break it up on usage or who has what?
I guess the people who don't have as much liability as you, they like it this way, I'm assuming,
But
right?
it would only have one budget.
Right,
One bill.
right.
And then you want to have those fluctuations.
May I ask the commissioners a question?
Sure.
Would it be possible to get that breakdown of which departments are being assessed, which amounts for the different insurances?
I actually did that. Well, I did it fast, let me put it that way, because I wanted to go through and see who was paying what, for just that insurance liability line. And the commissioners, it was $4,000, Waterworks was $1,200, the attorney's office was $3,500, Register of Deeds $3,000, Sheriff $50,000, Dispatch $3,054, Administrative Building $2,300, Maintenance $2,000, the jail, it's property liability insurance, it says on it, $20,000, the farm $5,000, and the nursing home $50,000. So when I added that up really quick, it was like $144,000. Don't quote me on, I mean, I did that really fast. I mean, I just went through the budget really quick, just to get an idea of what was, what they put on that insurance line. Commissioner?
So this is, I'm bringing this up at the next meeting.
Oh, okay.
So you got,
I want to find out
you
about all
got
the
the
other
lion's share of
Great.
liability.
Okay, not only insurance, but everything.
Commissioner?
Sure.
To answer the representative's question, I've been here, I guess, 20 years, and the whole time I've been here, it's always been a portion, electricity, water, insurance, I can't think of the others. How it was established originally, I have no idea, but I'm sure that Catherine Armstrong can give you the figures, because she's the one that does the figuring. Unless it started before her time.
Yes.
This weekend, I was thinking about the same thing, and for our work session on Wednesday, I typed up this very subject. I want to find out how we're allocating all these expenses, from audit to water to electricity to everything. I want to find out the methodology, what it's based on, how old it is. I want to review the whole thing.
Yeah, you have to wonder if insurance is dictated by Primex, because they're the ones who write the policy, and I don't know, do they look at where the liability lies? I mean, they don't do it
No,
that way.
that's it.
So we get a policy, and then the county takes who they feel has more liability than.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it's
That's
been
how my
established
understanding
years
of it.
ago, and it's time for us to review that.
Yeah.
Because we're doing it for water, we're doing it for audit, we're doing it across the board. And so I want to look at every single expense account that's being allocated and see if it makes sense.
That would be good.
Will you be adding the dental insurance in there too, or is that all?
That's per person. That's charged per person, so that's not allocated. That's, under the insurance benefit, it's like $330 per person, so that's not an allocation. The ones I'm concerned about, Ed, are when you get one bill, for like heat or for water, and then the business office uses some methodology to split that up between the departments. That's the one I want to understand that.
Telephone is another big one.
Yeah.
And we talked about gas also, I mean, at one point. I think it was-
Propane, yeah.
Yeah, well, not even so much the propane, but gas for vehicles, how you were dispersing or.
That's
how-
recorded, when the bill comes in,
Yeah.
it has the vehicle number on it, so it goes to the individual,
Right, we don't,
departments.
the county doesn't have a gas.
No.
You use the local,
State pumps.
just use the state pumps, yeah, but the county vehicles don't use the state pumps, do they?
I'm not sure if the farm uses a pump.
Well, the farm uses the diesel and the gas, and that's all. Basically,
From where?
here,
From here.
for their equipment.
How about, jail and,
I think the jail just went on the state pump.
They're on the state pump.
Yes.
there too?
Yeah, just go on that.
I don't believe he fills up there.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him.
Does the county get, the state rate?
It's the state rate plus 10%, or 10 cents, yeah, for the administrative.
Because the state doesn't pay the tax.
10 cents a gallon
Right.
for an administrative fee?
And there's no.
There's no tax on the gas.
But they fluctuate. I mean, at one point during the winter, the Conway pump was $2.75. When the public pumps and 2B were a lot less. Because it depends on what load, when it was delivered. The Wakefield pump we stopped using because it's one of the highest in the state all the time. So,
There was one bill where the stick was down to like $2.09 that I noticed when I ran that. So, like you said, it does fluctuate, but it got all the way, when everybody else was down around $2, they were within 10 cents of it.
and it's right, it's since come back up.
So your telephone, is that, for their telephone for the sheriff's office, that is like 11,900? Is that one bill that you get and you allocate, or is that a specific bill just for them?
That's just, the bill comes in, but it references the sheriff's
And
department.
just so you take it out, yeah.
Right, there's several bills for our telephones, because then you're also getting into the cell phones. Each deputy issues a regular cell phone, not a smartphone. We did away with pages years ago, a couple years ago.
You give them a flip phone?
Yes, just paid flip phones.
Anyone outstanding thing?
I just wanna, I'm backing up a little bit.
That's okay, Susan.
So we had down $50,000 for insurance. And I had a question from a previous time about whether that should be increased. Is that just part of the, allocation? Line 93?
Yes, it was increased to 70.
It
On
was.
the proposal, right, by the business office.
So that,
Excuse me, Madam Chairman.
yes.
Did I understand the sheriff just to say the business office increased that from 50 to 70?
Well, I have, it says subcommittee, 70,000, but I don't have that here.
This came from the business office for the last delegation meeting.
Pardon me, Don?
This came from the business office for the last full delegation meeting.
May I ask, is the 70,000 under what, the committee's gonna recommend? Or,
Well, see, I have on the 16th, a circle around proposed 50,000, and it says ask Kathy. So I think that was to ask Kathy how it was distributed, and I did, and she said that was their portion, that's their share. But I don't have the 70,000.
On 219. I know it was discussed during subcommittee,
Yep.
and
It's on-
basically,
it's
if we
here on
weren't gonna put it
219.
into one bill for the commissioners, then
You
the last 3 years, it has risen every year.
Well, I can see that because it's 74,000 at the end of 14. Does that not go down though if you have no incidences? I mean, do you ever get, if you have no crashes or?
I haven't seen it one time, so.
It always goes down.
You have to drive it.
You don't get like your driving record discount?
Check $50.
Yeah, seriously. Only women get that, because of commercial. All right, so our bottom line on 219 for sheriff, did that change from 1,845,675? Because the proposed was 1,760,290.
I think 180 is with the contract in place and all that. Proposed contract. That's what all the new numbers.
Sheriff, the union contracts in there?
Yes,
In the 219 budget.
yes. Under the subcommittee.
Madam Chairman, before you leave us, could you give us slowly a bottom line for Sheriff? 1,875,000.
1,845.
45.
Yep, 675.
Thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Now, the only thing I do since the last meeting on the subcommittee and the delegation was the question of the computer lines, the IT lines. Apparently, what I got out of it was the subcommittees are supposed to be dealing with those line numbers and forward them to the IT budget, basically.
That's not what I got out of it.
Okay.
I mean,
Which really doesn't have a representative.
I understood that that committee with your representative, right?
Right. Lieutenant.
The lieutenant, what I understood is that,
It's a steering committee only. It's not a budget committee.
yeah.
It wasn't delegated.
But I thought they were gonna make the recommendations, not the subcommittee. What did you think?
My assumption after asking a question about this was that the previously existing IT committee would make recommendations to the subcommittee number 2. And then that subcommittee of the delegation would make the recommendation for the whole delegation.
But we don't have any figures as a subcommittee to make any type of recommendation because we're not part of that.
Right, but I guess as a department head,
Yeah,
it comes down to me as far as what do I need for the agency. It's not the lieutenant's responsibility. It's not someone else's department's responsibility to say, well, we need this amount of money in here so the sheriff can have what he needs.
And so it sounds to me like that we're in a transition phase, and that where we should be at is that you as department head should be having an opportunity to speak to the delegation IT subcommittee to indicate what your needs are. And are you telling me that has not happened?
The only thing that has happened is originally, when this all began, was we were told to basically pull our IT numbers out of the budget and put them into this IT budget.
right.
So that's what was done, basically. Those numbers were pulled out. There's never been any talk as far as the use of those numbers, basically, other than one item that it's already been paid, because it had to be paid, was a licensing for the reporting software. Other than that, the numbers that came out of the budget, as far as I know, are still in the IT budget, I would hope, for computer expenses, for just maintenance and updated software. And the only other number I want to make sure that is the laptops for the cruisers that we spoke about, is $8,000.
The commissioners discussed this, and Commissioner Miller, would you let everybody know where we stand on it?
So we had the IT committee in last Wednesday and brought up this very subject. And the consensus from the IT committee is that when the budgets are presented to the subcommittees, that any new equipment is going to be presented by the department heads. So if Dominic needed 7 new laptops during the subcommittee meeting, he would present the justification for those 7 laptops. If it's a all-encompassing type like the optical or the fiber optics, then and the questions as to defending the need for fiber optics, that John Rich would defend and present that portion of it. So the way it's broken up, if it covers the entire campus, John Rich is supposed to defend and present that budget. All new equipment is supposed to be presented in the subcommittees by the department heads to the subcommittees.
Okay, so I understand. And then if he's asking for new computers, would that just not be new equipment? Why would we tie it into IT? I mean, it's like, what I'm thinking of, is IT the wiring and all of the, or is IT part of equipment and servicing and all of that stuff? So it gets a little complicated.
Yes, it does, and that's how it's difficult for everybody to try to understand the pieces, but all the departments need IT equipment, and when they have to replace it, the only people that can defend that and present it are the department heads that are requiring that. Once we start tying all that IT equipment together, the only person that really understands that is John Rich. Yeah. So you can't expect Dominic to defend the need for fiber optics if the commission and the delegates decide that's where we have to go. All those connections and all the costs associated with that. The other thing John Rich is supposed to be doing is reviewing everybody's budget at the beginning to make sure they've ordered enough firewalls and they have the right software and they have everything else throughout the entire campus. So there's a split responsibility, but what we're trying to do is split it up so the department heads are responsible for asking for new equipment, but in totality, John Rich is the one that has to say, I have enough money in my budget to run IT for the entire county. So it's a difficult situation we're in because he doesn't work for us, he's a hired gun. So
right.
It stems back to the lack of communication and confusion when it comes to doing budget numbers. Yeah. If the consultant doesn't understand that we have to make hard and fast decisions and we're not getting information from him, maybe it's not fair to the departments, it's not fair to us, it's not fair to the commissioners. And we're still, I feel like running in the blind here. And to get this answer, and this is not the commissioner's fault, but to get this answer this late in the process is also a little frustrating to do.
Right, so are we leaving with this blank? Because the IT line is zero.
It has a separate. I think this subcommittee needs to talk to the sheriff as to what he wants to run his department, just like anything else. So you as a subcommittee need to act on what he is asking for. As far as the budget goes to the IT.
So this line, whatever he needs, we need to tell the IT person, but I'm concerned right now with the bottom line and the sheriff's bottom line. The bottom line is the bottom line, and whatever he needs for IT, there's a budget for that somewhere.
And the IT budget.
And the IT budget, but we have to make sure that what he needs is in that IT budget. Is that how I understand this?
Yes.
Okay. See, I didn't know.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. May I respond to Representative Parker?
Sure.
Representative Parker, we were directed as commissioners to take the IT out of the budget, put it in one department. This is all blown up in the last week. It's the delegate. We did that. We did what we were instructed to do. Now we're trying to figure out a better way to do it, because there is a better way.
I not disagree with you, Commissioner Batson. What I'm saying is, I haven't known this was done before my time, but I'm just seeing the end result of how it kind of mucks up the budget process, for lack of a better term. And like I said, I'm not blaming the commissioners, I'm just saying something, and as you pointed out, something needs to be fixed and changed with how this is done.
So,
I mean, that's the reason I brought it up last week.
Yes.
I was uncomfortable between the subcommittees and.
And you know, we're running blind a little bit.
Exactly, and I think we are too, so I was concerned about the way this is moving down the road, and it's hard to figure out who's on first and who's on second.
Exactly.
so I know, did your request go to the tech committee?
As far as I know, yes, because what I'm looking at are the numbers that I pulled out of my budget for that budget. So basically, they're going on last year's numbers, other than the computers for the laptops.
So your request is with the computers, and you added the computers to that request that went to the tech committee?
Yes, and that includes the IT contract for John Rich, with Cybertron to do the work in the town. Our portion that was given us.
Okay, so how does this subcommittee recommend to the tech committee if we never,
Madam Chairman, I think the way to look at this is, if he's buying something that just the sheriffs are gonna use, laptops and the cars, that's a piece of equipment. The IT really is campus-wide, like you said. I mean, if it's servers or fiber optics or any of that, or servicing, that's real, unless he has a lot of servicing done, then I don't, but really he's getting double whammy. He's gotta jump through 2 hoops now, the way it stands. He's gotta get us to approve any equipment, and then he's gotta get it, then it goes there to IT, and they.
That's exactly the way
Right.
it's set up right now.
So,
That's absolutely
so
right.
realistically, we need to pull that equipment line out and keep it in the sheriff's budget.
that's what, I mean, that's how I would see it. It's equipment, it's, I mean, even though it's a computer, it's still equipment. I don't know.
What should have happened is the delegation should have assigned a delegation member to that IT committee so there could be a proper report. We have no choice.
I
It's
thought
too
Glenn
late.
Cordelli was.
Glenn Cordelli, he is on the committee, absolutely. He is, he's a member of that committee.
But I don't think it was for that purpose.
No.
It was for just so you could hear the conversations about staring.
And my understanding is that IT committee was to assess the situation, to make recommendations, to find out how we could streamline and get efficiencies, but they really didn't have any decision-making authority.
Right.
But there's a second IT committee, which is, I'm not gonna say it's a committee, the IT budget is being decided, recommendation is being made by that multi-group 2 committee.
So committee 1 are not necessarily the same members of committee 2.
And that's even a little confusing because there's on the delegation, there's a subcommittee called multi-1 and a subcommittee called multi-2. But the IT committee is not the same as the committee making the subcommittee, delegation subcommittee that's making the decision on it.
Right.
I don't know, but didn't know there was a work session.
We were told in the beginning, anything computer related.
Yeah.
Or.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake.
Yeah,
I agree.
Madam Chair, my suggestion would be that somebody from this committee communicate with that delegation subcommittee in advance of the meeting on Friday to make sure that what the Sheriff's Department needs has been included in that budget. And if not, which is, I think, the 800 section, and if not, that we be prepared to add it in.
Yeah.
yeah. Who wants to do that?
I think it would behoove you to take whatever you think that you're going to buy for your own department and have it ready to go with your own budget. I just, it makes a lot more sense that way. You could beat this bit down.
Madam Chairman, if the sheriff put it in his budget and we took it out, that figure went back into the IT budget.
So
So there shouldn't be any problem. What I think we're trying to say is this subcommittee should approve or disapprove of the equipment that he
Right.
is wanting.
Right.
Is it important for him to have that equipment? And that's your decision. As far as the budget, don't worry about the budget. The budget goes into the IT budget. And at 10 o'clock, that committee meets.
Oh, we'll be out of here.
Okay.
Absolutely. Wants to have you.
And you're right, we're in transition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
We've got
so
next year.
we didn't really see that per se because we figured that was going to IT. So maybe we need a copy.
Right. That was my question is, have we seen a list of what it is exactly that you're looking for?
Well, again, I mean, I'm looking at what was passed out to Friday in the budget. There's no breakdown.
No, it's just a figure, right?
I mean, my figure was 85,300.
The understanding that we had is that within the IT budget line, there's going to be a subcategory which lists new equipment by each department. So
There you go.
that's the way it should be presented. Now, I haven't seen that, but that's supposed to be the plan according to the IT committee. It's under information systems. Every department has the new equipment as a subcategory within that overall budget. Okay? I mean,
Yeah, I hear you.
I don't want to muddy the waters, but I would think the system would work something like this. The sheriff would present to you people the new equipment that he wants. You make a recommendation whether you should get it or not, and if that figure comes out to $25,000, you report it to the IT committee, and it gets added to their budget with no argument. And that should be the way it is for all departments. Subcommittee should be figuring out what the department needs, and then it's just.
Okay, so I think it was just miscommunication on how we were going to do the IT as a whole, and I think, I don't know if other subcommittees are in the same situation where they felt the same way, or if the other subcommittees, and I just have been neglectful, have been reporting what their, what their committee, department heads wanted in their IT budget. So if it's my mistake, I'm sorry.
it's not, but the topic has been discussed more in this subcommittee than any other one, but it is something that has to be addressed.
Yeah. So maybe the sheriff could just give us a list, or even spew it off, if you don't have a copy of it, of what your 85,300 is.
What I had was line 029. It's 100.8,000.029 is the line number.
Okay.
It's in the IT. So
What is it?
licensing was 13,500.
Say it one more time.
13,500.
Yeah.
Supplies and repairs was a combination between the sheriff's office and dispatch, was 9,800. And those were pulled out of last year's budget.
And that's for dispatch also.
Yes.
Okay.
New equipment was the 8,000 for the laptops. And then there's countywide contract. Again, the sheriff's office of dispatch on last year's budget was a total of 54,000. And that's for the cyber contract, basically, so.
Or that's a cyber.
Contract. That was our portion given from the business bank.
Any discussion on any of those?
Again, the licensing's already been paid. That's a one bill for TriTech software.
So that came out of
That line.
already.
It's actually out of the sheriff's office, because this is a
Yes.
8 is our hope. These are refurbished price to basically fit on the stands that we already have.
And the
If we
cruiser.
have to change the whole thing, then it's going to be much more.
So we have more cruisers than we have laptops.
Yes, yeah, they're not going in detectives, they're not going in this.
Just road, just road. Yes.
These are the kind of codes.
Yeah, these are
I
tough
picture
books.
what's in my head.
That's what tough book pants on.
Just run out the window. Prisoner can hit him.
You see the
So can this committee in all reality make that recommendation that this is a go for the IT committee and someone, maybe it's me, tells the IT committee, who's the head of the IT committee?
Mike right now.
Well, that's the steering subcommittee,
Yeah.
not the budget.
I believe
No,
it's Karen Umberger,
Is it
who's the
Karen?
chair of the multi-team.
I will email Karen and let her know that we are, if it's a consensus of everyone, okay with the 85,300 amount for the IT portion of sheriff and dispatch. Does that make sense to everybody?
Before we have that consensus, I do have a question.
Sure.
If I may. That $54,000 is a big number, and exactly how does that affect you? And you know, you said that's a portion that's been assigned to
Again,
you?
it's the line that was in the old contract, or the old budget, the last line, of $27,000 to the sheriff's office.
Okay, and he comes, just,
This is to, basically, he comes in and updates our equipment. He installed a new server that we were rewarded by the grant. So anything computer related that we need in our office, he's the one that works on it and does it. His contract is, I don't know what it is, but again,
How come it's so much more though? That was 27,000.
yeah,
well, it's half is dispatch and half is sheriff's office.
how often do you see this?
We're having
Often.
contract issues.
I'm sorry?
Often.
Often. Well, that's a good sign.
I mean, he's on campus 2 to 2.5 days a week, primarily. That's the contract.
So, I'm hoping the IT subcommittee is looking at the total contract.
Yeah.
That's enough to say.
Well,
Yeah.
we've been served up $54,000 of it. That's my concern.
Well, I pick up the term portion of.
Yeah, right.
So what are we doing, Kenny? Question.
So,
And
May I ask the commissioners a question?
Sure.
Could you refresh my memory about whether this contract covers just service or if it also covers parts and that sort of thing?
Representative, it covers service, it covers installation. He will purchase the equipment that he needs and we pay for it. What else am I forgetting? He repairs whatever we have around here. And he's come up with a plan, a 5-year plan. We're in the 5th year of the plan now. So I've got a copy of it, I believe.
A lot of
That's what he does.
A lot of labor.
He's on call, I mean, obviously for us, he's on call for 24 hours.
And he's here, and he's on 24 hours, and if you have a breakdown, he's Johnny on this floor.
Does he live locally, like
He
most
lives
of
over in Guilford. Belmont, somewhere over there.
I think the sheriff's department is probably the biggest user within the county.
Okay.
So that's why the charge is so high. We're operating 24/7 around the clock in dispatch.
If I may,
Yes.
just for the sake of discussion, what do you think it would take for you to train somebody to help you with some of your internal issues?
Oh, us?
Yeah.
It would take quite a bit. I mean, as you know, Dave Myers was the sheriff's computer guru who basically built the system up. I don't think you'll get that type of person again. And again, he ended up getting quite a salary for what he was going in.
And he was
And
one of
then
your-
if you're gonna put him on call all the time, are you gonna pay overtime? If it's gonna be an in-house deputy.
That's a specialty. I mean, state police even have one like that.
Madam Chairman, I think one of the things this committee ought to be thinking about, we extended Mr. Richard's contract for 2 years, at the same price, because of fiber optics, everything we're trying to get set up. At some point, you've got to begin to think about whether we have our own in-house department or whether we continue with an outside source.
You need to hire a full-time tech
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
department, I have no idea whether you can get away with one person or
Yeah.
two.
Just
but
a 54.
It's something you have to begin thinking
Sure.
about, not wait till the last minute.
Yes.
If you want, his contract amount is in the budget, 126,344.
Oh, that's the person I need to contact with.
That was the county wide number, 126?
344.
Does that include equipment, I mean, any type of when he replaces anything, that's extra, right? So that's really his time. That's labor.
That's his time
labor.
and knowledge.
Yeah, and his knowledge, yeah.
This is also the nursing home too.
Yeah.
All
In the
of that.
jail.
You go back to-
Nursing home, jail, the county one.
So, to wrap it up, because they're gonna be here at 10 o'clock, and I need to go home. I have to work this afternoon. I have to take some medicine or something. Are we good with this budget? Yes.
Just to make sure I've got it right,
Yep.
what you're proposing is $1,845,675 with an additional $85,300 to go into the IT department. Is that correct?
That
The
would.
total figures?
That would be correct, because the IT figure is separate, even though it's part of the sheriff, but it's not.
Right.
Commissioner Babson, can you repeat that number for the IT again?
What I have is $1,845,675.
That's total.
Total for the sheriff's department.
Not with the IT.
And the IT, which is his department, but will be in the IT portion of the budget, is $85,300.
And that doesn't include dispatch.
Right, I haven't, you know.
That's not this
No,
budget.
no, dispatch is separate item.
Here's where we're getting messed up. That $54,000 includes.
That's right, that's an IT, and it's not broken down. It wouldn't-
Right.
But the dispatch budget is, I've got the dispatch budget, bottom line is 821,255, recommendation from the subcommittee. Does everybody else have that?
Which is actually just down from last year.
821,255. That was the figure on the 19th.
How much is your budget over last year? Or,
Should look like that.
Far
right. Got it.
The actual budget for 14, the ending was 840,26056.
for dispatch?
Yes.
What about the sheriff?
For sheriff, it was ending 1,805,868 and 67 cents. So the sheriff's budget's up about 40,000. That's fair to say?
Well,
Plus the
except-
IT.
Plus the
Except
IT.
the IT.
Yeah, roughly.
So we were basically underspent about 12,000. Dispatch budget is almost $20,000
Less.
under the spent cost.
And we know, not to get into a big long discussion about it, but we know that the dispatch personal days is underfunded. We know that.
What now?
That the dispatch personal days is underfunded. Only
Why are you gonna
because,
do that?
well, it always has been because it's one of those crapshoots. I mean, I hate to use the word, but, you know, if we have,
Sick day.
we have sick, yeah, it's your sick days, so I think, you know,
Don't get sick.
hopefully don't get caught. We need to get caught.
Get caught.
Well, I thought we put into our budget a line item for, I forget what we called it, but to cover this type of situation. I mean, it's just not good budgeting to be out there with a liability that you haven't funded.
Well, we have, but, I think what we're looking at is the actual ending on that line in dispatch was 8,609.
Is that,
That's line 004 on
004?
dispatch. Yeah.
I have 8,000, what did you end up with?
Well, they went over about $609. The actual was
Oh.
8,609.
8,000.
The subcommittee actually recommended 9,000 in that line.
Okay. Wow.
So you just cross your fingers.
I believe that's being done pretty much across the board.
Board, yeah.
Yeah.
Crossing out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dennis, you have the figure on
I'll have you. I feel scared myself.
Don't touch anything that I touch, just don't touch
I
anything.
think I've had them all already.
Yeah.
Traps in the
We
morning,
got-
seats in the house.
I asked HR to look through the payroll master file and add up, it's an unlikely scenario, but
Yeah.
if everybody left today,
Right.
we would have to pay out $380,000 between sick and vacation pay. That's the unfunded liability, $380,000.
But I would say the sheriff's office is very minimum of that.
Yeah.
And the sheriff can't leave.
It must be a good job.
He's elected.
It's all
But,
70.
you know, the thing, if we were a corporation, there would be a funded liability. I mean, there would be
Right.
a reserve for it.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
because we're in the cash and we're a county, you don't address it, so,
We have put in $30,000.
yes, we have,
I know the town, our town has a fund.
yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna like toss it up in the air on who wants to report on Friday, maybe the sheriff, maybe one of you if you show up.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
would you be able to summarize for us so that we have that? Because we don't
Summarize.
have necessarily minutes of this meeting, as far as I know, so.
No, and I, that's my fault. Look at one paper hang up. I mean, I've got myself in so many places at once.
Could we have the final figure for the dispatch?
Sure. Final figure for dispatch is 821,255.
Okay. And that does not include any IT because it's with the sheriff's.
Yeah, that IT line is blank.
Madam Chairman, should the other committee find another room or?
No, you're asking me for a summary. Is it just the bottom line, Susan, or what are you asking
The
for?
major changes, like a presentation, maybe we could work together on it.
We'd have to,
Plan
because
to IT together.
I've got so many notes that are hanging out here. Maybe on Wednesday, if we can see each other on Wednesday. maybe we could do it. So I got my bulletin in the mail. It's like this thing. I have to.
The calendar?
The calendar.
That's gonna go with their vote. What?
It's huge. Okay, so can we adjourn? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Second. Adjourn at 10:05. Thank you. We're out of here.
There's a handful of serious questions on that.